Om Stapakaya च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। So, we will be continuing our introduction to the Vedanta philosophy. We have covered a lot of ground. We have seen the relation of Brahman with the world, examined what Advaita has to say about the nature of the soul, about the nature of bondage, liberation, all these things. So now we are approaching the end to this introduction. So what are we discussing today? A very important part of this philosophy, a theory upon, we can say, a theory upon Advaita philosophy rests, as it were. So, we have seen that according to Advaita Vedanta, Brahman is the only reality. That is the only thing which is really real, so to say. Other things are real, but at one stage they may cease to be real. But Brahman cannot cease to be. It is the only reality. So, this is true according to Advaita, but this is also true that although Brahman is the only existing reality, we are perceiving everything other than Brahman. So, our wrong perception, we are seeing multiplicity instead of unity, we are seeing all this variety. Instead of experiencing consciousness, we are experiencing all these inert objects, and rather than being immersed in bliss, we are nearly always in some difficulty or the other. So what is the reason? There has to be some reason for this. So what we are perceiving is not correct according to Advaita Vedanta. So there has to be an error of perception somewhere. Some error is there. Something is wrong. This much is sure. So, to understand the nature of this error, a perceptual error, something is wrong with our perception. So, if we have to understand the nature of this error, we will have to understand what knowledge is. How can we say that if someone tells us, if someone objects against the Advaita Vedanta that you are saying everything is Brahman, maybe 1 in 10 million people have seen Brahman, experienced Brahman, and we are hundreds of millions are experiencing this world. So how can you say that 1 in 10 million is right and all of us are wrong? How is it possible? So if we have to prove the Advaita philosophy, then we have to know what is true knowledge, because we are also gaining knowledge. Whenever we cognize something, we are gaining knowledge of something. All the time through our sense organs we are gaining knowledge. So this is also knowledge. But Advaita Vedanta says there is something higher also. this knowledge is not ultimately true. So when Advaita Vedanta says this, the question comes up, then what is the test of true knowledge? Because if you say all this is error, then we should know what distinguishes error from truth. Otherwise, how will he believe you? So that is why we have to know what is the test. How do we know that what we are perceiving may not be correct, may not be the ultimate thing? So that is why this is the topic under discussion today. So now, just to recapitulate, while studying the Mimamsa philosophy, we have seen that, like Advaita, Mimamsa also says that the knowledge, every kind of knowledge is self-valid. Self-validity of knowledge. It is accepted by Mimamsakas as well as Advaita Vedanta. So we have discussed it in detail, but for today's class we have to just have a recapitulation because it is closely connected with today's discussion. So this theory of self-validity of knowledge is a dual proposition. The first part of this is that validity of knowledge is intrinsic. Intrinsic means something else from outside does not need to tell us that our knowledge is true or false. And second part is validity of knowledge is self-evident. So first part means that the validity of knowledge results from those very causes that produce knowledge. See, if the light is proper in this room and if I see something, my eyes are also okay by God's grace, then what does this theory say? This theory says that the causes which produce my knowledge, they themselves prove that my knowledge is correct. This is the thing. They themselves are the result which generates this valid knowledge. So validity of knowledge is a result of what? Result from the causes which produce knowledge. The causes are what? Proper light in the room, my eyes are okay, there is no smoke or something, I can see clearly. So these causes produce knowledge. So all the conditions necessary for the generation of a specific knowledge, if all the conditions are fulfilled, that knowledge has to come and it has to be valid. Mr. X or Y does not need to come and tell us that this knowledge is valid. No. The knowledge itself, when produced, tells us that it is valid. Because if Mr. X comes and tells us that your knowledge is correct, who will verify that what Mr. X is telling is true? Then we'll need a Mr. Y, then a Z, so there is no end. So that is why it says that this is called in philosophy that regresses ad infinitum, means anavastha dosha. This is a fault in arguing. This cannot be. So where will it end? This means that validity of knowledge is intrinsic. Secondly, what is the second part? That it is self-evident. Means as soon as I know something, I know that what I know is true. Nobody needs to tell us. If somebody comes and tells me, if you want to go somewhere, see in Google Map or something. So when I see it, do I need to ask him that what I have seen, is my knowledge correct or not? I know it is correct. Nobody needs to come and tell me. So first part is the very causes of that knowledge also are responsible for the validity of knowledge. Secondly, it is self-evident. It is evident to me automatically. Nobody needs to tell me that your knowledge is correct. So these are the two parts which we have studied in detail. So what does this mean? This means that true knowledge is called Prama. This we have to remember. We have discussed this again and again. By now you should remember. True knowledge is called Prama. So this theory means that Prama, true knowledge, is spontaneous and inherent in the causes which produce it. Okay, so with the origination of knowledge from any of the 6 sources, we know that there are 6 sources of knowledge: perception, inference, all these things, verbal testimony, comparison, postulation, and non-apprehension. So these 6, if they produce knowledge, if everything else is all right, if everything is free from any deficiency, the validity of knowledge arises as a matter of course. Something else is not needed for that. This is the theory. So what does it say again? Whenever there are sufficient conditions for the generation of a particular kind of knowledge, and therefore there is no ground for doubt or disbelief, etc., there arises at once that kind of knowledge containing a belief in the object known. First thing is knowledge arises of itself. If my eyes are correct and the light is okay in the room, the knowledge of what is in front of me arises of itself. I don't need to do anything else. And what else arises? Arises the belief that yes, what I am seeing is true. Both of these arise. Okay. So this is the theory of self-validity of knowledge, which we have discussed in detail earlier. Now, sometimes we know that knowledge proves to be invalid also. What we thought we had seen, actually we did not see. So how do you explain this? So Vedanta says, when knowledge proves to be invalid, its invalidity is not due to the causal factors themselves, but due to the presence of some external defect in them. Some adventitious thing has come and that results in a defect in the causes of knowledge. For example, I am seeing something. So they say that when you have jaundice, you see everything yellow. So when I have jaundice, I am seeing the white wall as yellow. So the knowledge is invalid because the wall is white. I am seeing it as yellow. But why? Why is the invalid knowledge produced? It is produced because of some defect in the cause which produces that knowledge. So that knowledge is produced by my eye. One of the factors is my eye. There is a defect in my eye. So naturally the knowledge will be invalid. So while the validity of knowledge is intrinsic, but its invalidity is extrinsic. It comes from causes which are outside. This is what Vedanta says. Now another very important thing. The term knowledge is confusing because in English, in Western philosophy, The word knowledge is supposed to be true knowledge. But in Sanskrit, the word for knowledge is jnana. So, in Eastern philosophy, in Indian philosophy, there is also something known as mithya jnana, which is wrong knowledge. So this you have to remember. When we use this Sanskrit words, when we use jnana as knowledge, jnana can be wrong knowledge also. Mithya jnana also can be there. So what is the term which we use for true knowledge in Sanskrit? The term is prama. When we say prama, it automatically means true knowledge. It cannot mean false knowledge. But when we say only jnana, it can be mithya jnana also, wrong knowledge also, error also. This we have to remember. So the term jnanam in Sanskrit refers to both valid and invalid knowledge. It can be anyone. But when we say prama, it means right knowledge. So valid cognition, that is knowledge as the apprehension of truth or fact, naturally arises when all the necessary conditions are fulfilled. Okay, this we have seen. But if those are not fulfilled, if there is not sufficient light in the room, if my eyes are defective, some other problem is there with the causes which produce knowledge, then what happens? Then invalid knowledge, invalid cognition is produced. There are various types of invalid cognition which we will see next time when we discuss this. Error, doubt, disbelief, all these are there. So, for correct vision, so to say, just to take an example, knowledge is gained from all the organs, from eyes, nose, ears, etc. Those are called jnanendriyas, the knowledge of organs of knowledge. So, just to take one example for correct vision. For correct vision, the eyes must be free from defects. There must not be any obstruction between my eye and the object. There must not be something in between. There should be adequate light and so forth. So if all these are in perfect condition, then knowledge is produced automatically. But if the conditions producing the knowledge are defective, then that leads to invalid knowledge. For example, wrong premises or unsound arguments lead to faulty conclusions when we are discussing something. Ambiguous words or expressions create confusion. Thus, wrong knowledge invariably proceeds from defective causal conditions. Something is wrong with the cause that is producing that knowledge. So, it becomes necessary to distinguish true knowledge from error. So, we have already seen that according to Vedanta, it is the validity of knowledge that is also apprehended with the apprehension of knowledge, but not its invalidity. Because invalidity of knowledge is due to extraneous elements associated with the factors contributing to that true knowledge. So since it is something external, it has to be ascertained through the detection of those external elements. Am I clear? No, I can see from your faces. So, see, true knowledge is self-evident. It is intrinsic. It is there in the conditions which cause that knowledge. So, in true knowledge, there is no problem. But when the knowledge proves to be untrue, that is not valid, Vedanta says it is due to external conditions. Okay, it is not internal something. So, if we have to ascertain the error or why is the knowledge invalid, we have to go outside because the cause is outside. So some sound is in your room, some sound is in your room because your phone is ringing or your music system is playing. So when you know the sound is in your room, you don't need to go outside and search for it. But some others are creating disturbance. Then you have to, if you want to know what it is, you have to go outside and search for that. So Vedanta says that invalidity of knowledge, wrong knowledge, is due to external elements, not due to the causes if they are correct. If all the causes are correct, knowledge, valid knowledge has to be produced. But it says that if the knowledge is wrong, then something external has come to vitiate those causes. So you have to find out. So you have to find out, you have to search externally. So invalid cognition is sometimes apprehended by us as valid till there is reason for any doubt. So suppose I see the train lines, I am seeing the train lines in Vancouver. Now we know that blue line is Expo line and yellow line is Millennium line. But by mistake, I think that blue line is Millennium line and yellow line is Expo line. So my knowledge is wrong and I will go somewhere else if I do that. So one friend comes and tells me, no, what you are seeing is wrong. So first I thought I was right. But when someone came and told me, then I saw, So the reason for doubt was my friend's statement. Okay, so sometimes when knowledge is invalid also, we don't know it till it is proved to be invalid by external causes or somebody telling us. So that is why Vedanta says, you think that what you are seeing is true. But till you know what is correct, you think you are seeing correctly. But actually when you will see correctly, then you will know that what you are seeing now is false knowledge. Like for example, dream. When we are dreaming, we have become the king of Canada. We are very nice, happy. But when we wake up, we find that no, we are the same poor fellows as we were. So in the dream it was all okay. We did not know, it is wrong knowledge. But when we wake up only, we know. So here also Vedanta says it is the same thing. Many times what we are accepting as true is proved to be false. Like we are seeing the sky, blue sky, wonderful blue sky. But we all know that the sky is actually not blue. Previously they used to think that the sun is moving around the earth. Later it was proved to be false. So that is why when this is happening, when sometimes what we think to be right may not be right, that is why this question comes, that knowledge has to be verified. So what is the verification of your knowledge? That has to be known. Otherwise, we can be fooled all the time. Now, when this much is, I think, clear, now we come to what different schools have to say about the verification of truth. How can true knowledge be verified? This is the question. So different schools of philosophy gives different answers. So knowledge, in order to be prama, valid, it should be true. This much is common sense. If something is false, then my knowledge cannot be true. So if my knowledge is to be prama, right cognition, it has to be true. But views as regards the meaning of truth vary. What is the meaning of truth? If my knowledge is correct, it has to be true. Everybody agrees. But what is the meaning of truth? So very interesting. What we are discussing in short is the question, what does truth of knowledge consist in? This is the thing. Okay. So with this background, we will be able to understand. Now let us take one view after another. Three views are from other schools of philosophy, the most important, which I will state one by one. And as you know, the fun here is that every view, when expressed, sounds to be perfect. We think that it cannot be contradicted. But it is, we will see what are the loopholes in that theory also. So according to Buddhists, what is the confirmation of truth? They say that confirmation of truth is that if I get true knowledge, then true experience has the competence to lead to fruitful effort. If my knowledge is true, if I make an effort, it should be fruitful. If I see a glass with water, how do I know it is true according to them? They say you will know it is true only when you go drink the water. If you are thirsty, that water will satisfy your thirst. Then you will know that the knowledge is true. So sometimes the favorite example of Advaita Vedanta, a shell, two examples favorite. One is the rope and the snake, and one is the shell and the silver. So you are going in the beach, you see a shining shell. You think it is silver. When you go, so you are thinking, I will sell the silver and become a millionaire, but your purpose is not satisfied. Because then you know it was not a shell. So, mirage in a desert. We know, people when going into the desert, when they see the mirage, they rush. But they see that there is not a drop of water there. So they remain as thirsty as before. Then they know that my knowledge was not true. So this is what the Buddhists say. What do they say? In other words, that knowledge is valid knowledge which reveals an object capable of producing the desired effect. If the object which I see is capable of producing the effect which I desire, if the water I see is capable of quenching my thirst, if I see something as silver, it has the ability to make me rich. So if those needs are satisfied, then only you know that your knowledge is valid. According to Buddhists. This is the first argument. So what they say is that, again in different words I will tell, that knowledge is valid knowledge through which the purpose of the object is fulfilled. This also one school of Mimamsa believes in, that true knowledge must be an incentive to action that fulfills a particular need. Otherwise, it is erroneous. So, sometimes when we go, just a few days ago, I was walking on this road. So, I saw on a veranda, there was a cat. Absolutely lifelike. You could mistake, but when you just went close and saw it was not moving at all, absolutely still, then you know that it is actually not a cat. So if somebody keeps a dog or a cat like that, but if some intruder comes, that dog or cat won't do anything. It cannot do anything. So the purpose is not fulfilled. Then you know this is not a real dog. That is what they say. So if the practical need is not fulfilled, if what I can get from the object I don't get when I see it in a particular way, then I know that my knowledge is invalid knowledge. So true cognition, according to them, therefore, is defined as that which reveals an object that serves some purpose and it leads to the achievement of some end. Otherwise, they say, you cannot know whether your knowledge is true or not. You can only know when what you could get from that object you are getting. Then you know 100% it is correct. This is the first view. Second view, what do they say? This is the Nyaya Philosophy. They say that the validity of knowledge consists in its conformity with its object. If my knowledge, if I see something, and if my knowledge of that thing, if my knowledge and the nature of that thing is same, then my knowledge is correct. So Anilji is sitting wearing a blue shirt. My knowledge tells me it is blue. Now, if this knowledge, this shirt is blue, coincides with the true color of the shirt, then my knowledge is correct. So these are different theories, mind you. One says that my purpose should be fulfilled. Second one says the test of knowledge is the knowledge produced in my brain should be the same, should coincide with the real nature of the object. So a red flower, if I am seeing is red, my knowledge is correct. If a red flower I am seeing as blue, my knowledge is incorrect. So in other words, what does this theory say? To cognize something as possessed of the attributes it actually has is true knowledge. The shirt actually has blue color and I am also cognizing it as blue. Then my knowledge is true. Because the attributes which the shirt has is also being cognized by me. So my knowledge and the attributes of the thing coincide. So when they coincide, it is true knowledge. But if due to color blindness I had seen this blue shirt as green, then what happens? My knowledge is green, but the shirt is blue. They don't coincide. So that is false knowledge. To know a white conch as it is means true knowledge. To see it as yellow or something else it means false knowledge. So, this theory says the truth of knowledge can be known by its correspondence with the object. If my knowledge corresponds with the object, it is true. Otherwise, it is untrue. So if some person I think to be an extremely good person, but in the afterwards when I have some dealings with me, I know he is not such a good person, then I know that my knowledge was false, because it does not coincide with how that person is. But this correspondence of knowledge with the object has to be tested, otherwise it cannot be known. If some external defect is there, we sometimes are mistaken. So when the test is there, then we say it is okay. So, to put it very simply, the second theory says that truth is regarded as the faithfulness with which knowledge reveals its object. If knowledge is revealing the objects perfectly, it is true knowledge. True knowledge, therefore, is defined as that which informs us of the existing of something, first in a place where it really exists, or which predicates of something a character which is really possessed by it. So two things. If somebody says to me that a particular hotel is in Broadway Street, and that building of the hotel is yellow in color. So when will this knowledge prove to be correct? First, when I go and see that hotel is really on Broadway, and when I see, yes, the color of that building is really yellow, then my knowledge and the real nature of the object and the real place will coincide. Then it will be true knowledge. Okay? These two theories are, I think, clear. And one general theory about true knowledge is admitted by both East and West, and admitted by Advaita and all other philosophies. What is that? That any true proposition must be self-consistent. If I tell you anything, it must be self-consistent. It should not contradict itself. Suppose I tell you, I cannot speak. Can it be correct? When I am telling you, I am speaking. So if somebody, suppose what happens is, if somebody is sleeping, we go and ask him, are you sleeping?
Answer.
And if he is really sleeping, can he answer you? If he says, yes, I am asleep, can it be a right answer? Because it is a self-contradiction. If he was asleep, he could not tell you that I am asleep. If I say, I know that I know nothing, it is self-contradictory. Then at least you know that you know nothing. So how can you know nothing? So these are self-contradictory statements. They have to be, any proposition has to be self-consistent. A self-consistent proposition may or may not be true, but a true proposition has to be self-consistent. When you think over it, you will realize. So now, this is one thing. And then all the philosophers also hold the view that besides being self-consistent, a true proposition must be in accordance with the known facts, if they contradict known facts, then how can it be? How can it be true? So if I say the hare's horn is broken, can it be true? It cannot be, because the hare has no horn. If I say the lake is on fire, so unless there is something else, oil or something, the lake cannot be on fire. So if this statement contradicts facts, it has to be false, because they are contrary to human experience. No one has ever seen a hare with a horn or a lake on fire. So true knowledge must be in conformity with established fact and should not contradict them. So this is the third proposition. What? That first, a true proposition should be self-consistent. It should not contradict itself, because that is absolutely nonsense. Second thing, it may be self-consistent, but it may be contradicting known facts. Then also it cannot be accepted as true. So we have seen three theories. This one, of course, is accepted by everybody. That's self-consistency, and that it should not contradict facts. That, of course, is common sense. But the other two we have seen. First is that if knowledge is true, it has to lead to a proper result, desired result. And second theory says, if knowledge is true, then my knowledge should coincide with the true knowledge of the object. These are what the other philosophers say. This is the test of true knowledge. Now let us come to Advaita Vedanta. What does it say? So Vedanta says that each of these three criteria of true knowledge which we have told, first, correspondence of the object with the knowledge, coherence, and third is practical efficiency, practical efficacy. So Vedanta says that all these are true, but they have limited sphere. They cannot be a definition of true knowledge in themselves, because something is lacking in them. Each of these theory, Vedanta says, has relative validity and holds good in some circumstances under certain conditions. But none of them can be regarded as universal or ultimate test of truth. Because they cannot be regarded as the universal test of truth, they cannot be applied to the knowledge of the absolute truth, which is Brahman. So Advaita Vedanta says, if these theory you apply while searching for the real existence, ultimately real existence, you will fail, because they may not hold good in all circumstances. Sometimes they may be true, but when we define something, that definition should hold good every time, under all circumstances. But he says that no, these definitions do not hold good in all circumstances. Then how do they don't hold good, we will see. So what, according to Vedanta, is the crucial test of truth? What is the answer of Advaita Vedanta to this question? That when can truth of knowledge be ascertained without any doubt? How does Vedanta answer this? So the test of truth according to Vedanta is its non-contradictedness. There is no word in English language, but there is no way to express this. Non-contradictedness. What does this mean? That knowledge is valid according to Vedanta, which has for its object something which can never be contradicted. This is the answer. So in Sanskrit they said Satyatvam. What is truthness? Badha Rahitatvam. Badha means to be contradicted. Rahita means without. So in which there is no contradictedness, which cannot be contradicted. If that object is the object of my knowledge is true. This is what Advaita Vedanta says. All other tests of knowledge confirm to this test. This is the supreme test. So Vedanta says to cognize a rope, to see a rope as rope, is valid knowledge. Why? Because that is never contradicted. To see it as snake is not valid knowledge, because the object of this knowledge, the snake, is contradicted when we know the true nature of the rope. So false knowledge, if it is false, invalid knowledge, has to be contradicted at some time or the other, either today or tomorrow. That is the supreme test. So any erroneous experience or invalid proposition can be refuted on the ground of being contradicted. The knowledge that is not contradicted can only be true. If that knowledge is also contradicted, it cannot be true knowledge. So sun moving around the earth was acknowledged as a fact for maybe hundreds of years. But till Copernicus established his contrary theory, it was regarded as true. But when it was contradicted, we saw that it is not true. So this is what the term badha means. Badha means, when something is badhita, means it is contradicted. Now, what is the reason? Why do the Advaitins disregard the other tests of knowledge and hold only to this? Badha rahitatvam, that is non-contradictedness. Why do they accept this as the sole criterion? This is the thing. Because philosophy means we won't accept something just because you tell us. If you say that our theories are not correct, you say this is the only ultimate truth of knowledge, you show it. Why? Advaita says, yes, I will show you. So what is the reason for Advaita only accepting this? So I will quote from the wonderful book by one D.M. Datta, 6 Ways of Knowing. He explains this wonderfully. I quote him now. So these three views we have seen. He says, the Advaita school of Vedanta, however, favors a fourth view, according to which the truth of knowledge consists in its non-contradictedness. The correspondence view of truth cannot directly prove itself. Now see, we will take it up one by one. First, the first view what we had seen, that if something is accepted as true knowledge, it has to satisfy my purpose. If my purpose is not satisfied, that knowledge was false. If my purpose was satisfied, that knowledge is true. So, Advaita Vedanta says this may not happen in some cases. Other philosophers will tell us how. Give us one instance. Advaita Vedanta says, I will give you one instance. Okay, now please pay attention. So what is happening is, I am going in a jungle at night. I see a brilliant light flashing from some old dilapidated structure. It seems to be a jewel. I go and I find a jewel. My purpose is satisfied. But what I had seen was only the light of the jewel. I had not seen the jewel. So actually my cognition was false. The light of the jewel I had seen as the jewel. I had thought it was a jewel. But when I went there, I found a jewel and became rich. So here what is happening, you see, cognition was invalid. Why? Because what I thought to be a jewel was only the light of the jewel. But although it was false, my purpose was fulfilled. I found the jewel through that. So here what is happening? Here what is happening is that although I am seeing X as Y, still my purpose is being fulfilled. So Vedanta says that if your test was the purpose being fulfilled, then according to you, the light, seeing the light of the jewel and mistaking it for the jewel would have been right cognition, valid knowledge. But it is not valid because I had seen only the light, not the jewel itself. So although my cognition was invalid, it fulfilled my purpose. So your proposition that your purpose can be fulfilled only by true knowledge falls to the ground. Okay? It's not okay from what I see, but we don't have the time to repeat it now. Once we hear it again, it will be clear. So this is the first thing is gone. Second, what does it say? That the correspondence of the object with my knowledge, it should coincide. If I see a blue shirt as blue, my knowledge of blue is being confirmed by the color of the shirt. So Vedanta says when you are putting this view, this is called the correspondence view of truth. Vedanta says when you are putting this correspondence view of truth, that the object should correspond with my knowledge, you are only telling a part of our theory, non-contradictedness. This is what the Vedanta says. How? They say that you are telling that a blue shirt, when you see a blue shirt, when it turns out to be blue, then you know that your knowledge of the blue shirt as blue was correct. Is it not? But till at what time do you know that your knowledge is coinciding with the color of the shirt? When are you actually sure? When this color of the shirt is not contradicted. See, I see a blue shirt as a blue shirt. Okay? My knowledge is corresponding with the color of the shirt. But if 10 people here tell me, no, this is actually a yellow shirt, then what happens? My knowledge is contradicted. Then I know it is invalid knowledge. So Advaita Vedanta says, when are you sure of this correspondence theory? Only when all the people, other people sitting in the room don't contradict you. They also say this blue color is correct. The shirt is actually blue. So Advaita Vedanta says what you are telling is only a part of what we are telling. Because your theory rests on this knowledge not being contradicted. And that is what we are telling. Is this clear? Yes, to some extent. So, this is the answer. So, according to Vedanta, the only way to prove correspondence of the object with my knowledge is to fall back upon the theory which Vedanta is proposing. That knowledge is not contradicted. Actually, all we can, if we don't accept that non-contradictoriness, when I am seeing the blue shirt, the only legitimate inference can be that till now, this experience of mine is not yet contradicted. That is all I can say. If there is no one else in the room, suppose, all I can say, this shirt I think is blue. Because no one has contradicted it. That is all. My knowledge will prove to be valid only when I know that it is not contradicted by anyone. So actually what your theory is telling, Advaita Vedanta says, your theory has to rely upon our theory of non-contradictedness. So you are not telling something different. You are only telling a part of what we are proposing. Because till this non-contradictedness is admitted, I do not know that may not in future there may be some experience which will tell me the blue shirt is not blue, it is white. So both these theories have been set aside as being insufficient by Advaita Vedanta. First is the correspondence theory has to rely upon the non-contradictedness theory. Secondly, it has shown that a false cognition also sometimes may lead to a fulfillment of a purpose. Seeing the light of the jewel as the jewel, thinking it to be a jewel, was false cognition, but it led to the desired result of my getting the jewel. So we can multiply various instances of this kind. So we all know that the earth is round, but when we do a day-to-day work, it is with the belief that the earth is flat and the earth is stationary. Is it not? So these invalid cognitions are not hampering my work in any way. If I have to go to Toronto from here or go anywhere, if I think the earth is flat, my journey won't be interrupted. Because for all practical purposes it is flat. Whether I believe to be rectangular or oval does not matter at all. My purpose is fulfilled. So Vedanta says even wrong cognitions can lead to successful results. So there is no point in telling that is the only test of truth. So my belief that the earth is flat, it is only conflicting with the astronomical phenomena which will detect, no, what you are saying is wrong. It is wrong. But my practice, how does it affect my life? I am doing the same activities and I am achieving fulfillment in all those activities. So, the correspondence theory relies upon the non-contradictedness theory, and the pragmatic view of truth is not tenable. Because our purposes are fulfilled sometimes even with the help of wrong knowledge. That is why Vedanta says that if something is true, that truth is ascertained. How? Only when that object is never contradicted. That is the only test of truth. So Advaita Vedanta says that you are telling this world is true. You are telling this there is multiplicity and all that. It is not true. This knowledge of yours is not true. Why? Because it can be contradicted at one stage of your consciousness. So ultimately it can never be true. Of course, in our day-to-day life it is true. So uncontradicted in the definition of valid knowledge here means not contradicted during our day-to-day life. Ultimately everything will be contradicted. But that is not the meaning here. So when we come down to practical day-to-day life, here uncontradicted means not contradicted during our normal state of the state of jivahood, when we admit multiplicity and all that. Because after all the knowledge of the relative universe is contradicted when we have that supernatural vision of Brahman. So this is the ultimate test of truth according to Advaita Vedanta. So why have we gone to so much pain? Because Shankaracharya has tried to explain the appearance of the world in the light of illusory perception. He says that what you are perceiving is not true. It is an error. And this theory of perceptual error, that is why has been discussed very elaborately in Advaita Vedanta. Because some schools of philosophy, for example, the one branch of Mimamsa has two branches, two main branches, and they differ widely sometimes. So one branch of Mimamsaka says that actually there can never be any error in perception. All knowledge is true. They have their own arguments. So naturally when Vedanta tries to prove its view, it has to tackle all these objections. So it has to establish that not only error is possible, but actually that is what is happening in our day-to-day life also. We are perceiving, just as we sometimes perceive a snake as a rope, a rope as a snake, here also they say we are perceiving Brahman as the world. So seeing a snake in a rope is not true knowledge. Why? Because it is contradicted. Someone else will come and say, no, you are seeing a mistake, error. So here also they say that this knowledge is not true because it has been contradicted. Saints and sages say that what you are seeing is not correct. In a particular state of consciousness of ours, this knowledge is contradicted. So this is the view of the Advaita Vedanta, and in order to establish that view, they have to place before us this theory of error. And that is a very elaborate discussion.
To confuse you even more.
Yeah, so I think 1 or 2 Tylenols would have been done for you, but when we take up that, those are 6 different theories of error. And each one is proved wrong by Advaita Vedanta. And that puts its own theory. So anyway, whether we will go into all that detail, let me decide, because Tylenols are currently short in the market. So,
You have to see our limitations.
so let us end here. I have given you enough headache for 1 week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So just before ending, I will just share that one, just summing up, so that at least headache may be reduced a little. Let me show that chart. Yeah, just a few points. So just summing up, our discussion was on the topic, what does truth of knowledge consist in? So we have seen that Buddhists say that true knowledge is that which has the competence to lead to a fruitful effort. If the effort is fruitful, your knowledge was true. But we have seen that is not always true. Because seeing the light of the jewel and thinking it to be a jewel, we can actually get a jewel. So here, wrong knowledge also leads to fulfillment. And then the Nyaya Vaisheshika say that to cognize something as possessed of the attributes it actually has is true knowledge. That is true. But how will you know that it is possessed of those very attributes? How will I know that a blue shirt, which I think is blue, actually is blue, when it is never contradicted? When nobody says that this is not blue. So actually you are saying the same thing, because this theory also has to fall back upon the Advaita theory. And of course, true knowledge must be self-consistent and must be in accord with other known facts or truth. And last of all, Advaita, the test of true knowledge is its non-contradictedness. That knowledge is valid which has for its object something which is not contradicted. And that knowledge never wavers. So this is the thing.